Welcome to Off Code, the show where we ignore the cultural codes and have real and intriguing conversations regarding the Black community and ways we can move forward to human flourishing.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Off Code. I am Monique Duson.
And I am Kevin Briggins, and we have another great episode for you guys today. Today, we're going to dive into a very important topic that is kind of in the culture and on the minds of a lot of people, and that is it time for the Black community to look at other alternatives to the Democratic Party? So I think this is a very, very interesting conversation that should cause a lot of people to think through some things.
And I'm hoping that it's just the first of a few conversations, as this is an election year. You know, is it wise for Black people to stay with the Democratic Party? Is the Republican Party for us? If neither one of those places are for us, where do we land? You know, historically, Blacks have always voted in bloc. And so, you know, if we are going to vote in bloc, where does that bloc go? Or is it about splintering off and, you know, just every man for himself?
Yeah. And that was kind of one of the issues I had or with this discussion in general, because I'm like, why are we voting in a block to begin with, right? But we do vote in a block, you know, in general. So the conversation makes sense, right? But I definitely think we need to explore being more independent minded versus Black issues or Black concerns and moving in this one movement. Because if no other group is doing that, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, I think first and foremost, humans, you know, and especially Christians, we need to understand that political parties are not going to save us. That, you know, at the end of the day, we live in a world and in a nation that is filled with sinners, and sinners sin. And so that sin has impact on the citizens and people around us in our nation. And we do have opportunity to cast votes to, you know, work with leaders and on a national level and on a city level to help implement the good, true, and the beautiful as best we can. One of the things, Kevin, that I wanted to start with were a couple of TikTok videos I saw from Black people that were like, hey, look, the Democratic Party was for me, you know, and I was for it for a little while, but this is some tomfoolery kind of shenanigans up in here. And so I'm going to have to kick rocks. And it's actually encouraging other people to also leave the Democratic Party. And I know you sent me some more like news type articles, or not even articles, but videos. And so we're going to look at that, and then we'll get into a conversation on, is it time to make that mass exodus as a people group? And if it is, where do we go? Where do we find our political home? So let's look at the first TikTok.
Listen, this is a boy.
Our nation is gone mad.
Facts.
I hope y'all like y'all's president.
Hope you like him.
Because in a year's time, he screwed the whole nation up.
Facts.
I told you, I don't care how many blind eyes open if I say something like that. Wasn't my blind eye, I'm out of here. He must be a Republican. It only took that man 1 year to screw the whole country up. A year. Don't be looking at me like, no, our nation's gone backwards. Well, a year ago, you were paying $2 a gallon for gas. Yeah, let's take it where you can relate.
Take it there.
And you're paying almost $4 now because of his decisions.
Facts.
So this pastor, now obviously he was like within a year, so this was a couple of years ago, but that was, I think, the very first time when I started to see this conversation of, hey, did we make a wrong decision? Because hit a black person in their pocketbook. Hit us in the gas tank. I was in Hollywood yesterday. Gas was $7.39 a gallon.
Stop.
$7. I live an hour east, so my gas is about $4.39. But in downtown Los Angeles, Hollywood, $7.39.
I'll be riding the bike.
No, you won't either, because the way the homeless situation is here, and with all the homeless encampments, somebody will knock you off your nice 10-speed and take you. Your BMX only gonna have one wheel.
Well, I'm just gonna stay in the South. How about that? Then y'all can have California, you can have LA and sunshine and beaches and stuff. I'll take the dirty South.
Yes.
Right. But back to the preacher. I want to know what text he was preaching that week, because I don't know how he got to that. But his sentiment,
was it book, chapter, and verse?
Yeah, but I mean, his sentiment is something I've heard from other people who have been traditionally Democrat voters who have just said, I voted for him because, they were voting against something. They were voting against another candidate. They weren't really voting for him, but they made this decision, and it's almost like a buyer's remorse, and they're starting to see that simply voting Democrat might not be the best choice or the best option, because policy matters. Policy matters, within the Black community, and especially within the Black church. The race issue comes up a lot, and we typically vote around race issues. But now we're starting to see, wait a minute, this economic thing is important. The last guy, I didn't like the way he was tweeting, but my gas was $2.
See?
Yeah, they're starting to
your racism over there as long as I get that $2 gas.
Yeah. And I heard a lot about white supremacy, but I never saw the Klan. Kind of deal. Like, I was safe, wasn't nothing going on, and my gas was $2.
Yes.
So what did I vote for this for? Kind of deal. Finances play a role. People vote their pockets a lot of times, and so.
Yes, and when you think of, oh gosh, and the tie is so interesting, because much of what we continually hear in the disparity conversation is the wealth disparity, with Blacks being on the bottom. But yet, the very people who push the wealth disparity conversation have helped to make a 20% increase nearly in inflation.
Yeah.
And who does that impact the most? Poor people. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's look at the next clip.
As Black people, with Trump.
Still, with Trump, I don't know where everybody got against him.
Yo, he was making the breadwinners, you heard?
I'm a Democrat too, but okay, we need Trump back in office right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. I with Trump, to be honest with you, bro, for real, Trump really did the shit. And I like him because he's about money. It wasn't about no politics. He wanted to make America great again. Dude, Trump.
I'm like, Trump, he making sure to get they bread. I ain't gonna lie. I'm thinking Trump for life. Trump for life.
Any didn't stop. 2024 Trump.
Trump 2024
in Baltimore. I ain't gonna lie. Trump, my mother, dog.
Kevin, these just regular people at the beach on the street.
Yeah. And we're hearing a similar theme, right? Money, my pockets, right? And it's another thing too. I don't know if people realize that Donald Trump was a popular figure within the Black community, within in the hip hop community. And until he ran for president, and all of a sudden people tried to paint him as this racist dude when he's been hanging out in Black circles and rappers, the whole time. But especially Black men relate to Trump's swagger, right? They relate to his bravado. As much as people don't like it, as much as he says some things that as a Christian I wouldn't repeat, in terms of how he comes off, Black men identify with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's strong, he says what he wants, He doesn't, take anything from anybody. He's about that bread, as the guy said, and that's all they want, And so I get the appeal. The question has been, Black women will Black women vote for Trump? And we watch shows like The View, and you see Whoopi Goldberg and them say certain things, and you hear other women. He doesn't have the same appeal, but where it's turning is with Black men. And I'm not going to say it's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I think regardless of Trump, the reality is that there's a leaving of the Democratic Party away from, there's a leading of Black men away from the Democratic Party is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And so whether they turn to Cornel West or Nikki Haley or Trump or, whoever they turn to, they are turning away from the Democratic Party. Yeah.
And it's like that one guy said, he said, Trump had us as breadwinners, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means a lot, the Democratic Party has largely catered to Black women, right? It is a very feminized message that they tend to have that doesn't really appeal to Black men. And so, and the Republican Party has made no effort to really reach the Black community. But for some reason, Trump has a certain appeal to a certain demographic of Black men. Unfortunately, even Trump being arrested and being targeted by the justice system seemed to make him more popular with Black men.
I think it's interesting that you're saying that even though he's been arrested, even though he's had the whole Mar-a-Lago thing and all of that, that Black men seem even more, attracted to him or maybe still drawn to, I don't know if it's his political affiliation, if it's just his kind of stand overall, maybe it's his stick-to-itiveness, his you're not going to punk me and push me around attitude. What do you think it could be?
I think it is the fact that a lot of Black men have believed that the system, the justice system is weaponized towards certain people, particularly Black men, and they see that same system being weaponized against Trump, right? And so they don't necessarily see, Trump did these bad things and therefore he's just facing the consequences. They see it as he's being targeted, right? And so it's more of a, I can relate to that because he's going through the same thing we go through, Yeah.
Well,
and so I
hadn't thought about that.
Like I said, right or wrong, that is how it's viewed by a lot of people.
Yeah, nobody's out here, waving Trump hats and Trump flags necessarily, but just looking at some of what's actually happening in the culture.
Yeah.
Okay, next clip.
If President Biden was here today, what is your message to him?
That he doesn't really believe Black Lives Matter because the only thing he offers Black women is abortion. You aren't doing us any favors by giving us a ride to the abortion clinic and paying for that Black life to be lynched in the womb. If you really want to help Black women, if you really want us to believe that Black Lives Matter to you, offer us the same things you offer illegal immigrants at the border.
Whoa, she didn't mix no words. She
did not.
She said what she said. And I'm here for it.
I mean, I've never seen that clip. Wow.
I'm here for it.
She kept it real.
All the way 100% real.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, she brought up a good point. What do you offer except abortion and a ride to the abortion clinic? That is so deep.
And what are you offering others that you won't offer us?
Yes, that is a theme I have been seeing as immigration or illegal immigration seems to be the number one issue, especially in places like Chicago where the migrant crisis has really kind of spilled over. and it's affecting a lot of Black communities. And they're seeing, so Black communities have been saying, hey, we need money for the community center. Hey, we need money for this. And they're constantly told by the city, hey, there's no money. But the minute this illegal immigration thing comes up, now they've got millions of dollars to pour. They're fixing the community center for the migrants to live in. It's like, well, why you couldn't fix it when we were asking you to fix it, right? And so, and so they're feeling like and they've been loyal, right? We've given you all our support. We voted for you. We've been loyal, and now they're feeling like they've been used.
Yeah,
right.
Because I mean, you think of a situation like Flint, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
There was, how long did it take to get that situation with the water fixed?
Yeah.
And was there money for it and all of that? But there is money to take care of people who illegally cross into our country. And I think that you're right. Like, these people have been loyal to the Democrat Party and are now seeing that there is nothing in it for them. Not that there is nothing in it, but there's nothing in it for them. There is something in it for other people, though, who haven't been here as long.
Yeah. And I don't advocate for the idea that the government can fix your problems. Like she's saying, why don't you give us what you're giving them? Because immigrants are getting, they're getting assistance, they're getting aid, they're getting housing. And so Black people are like, where's my check? You paying them a monthly stipend. Where's my monthly stipend? I don't think that's a healthy way to approach, the government.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's how a lot of people are seeing it. And, we just got to basically express their viewpoint. This is how they feel. This is how they are seeing it. And they're feeling hurt by it. They're feeling like I say, they've been basically betrayed.
And while I 100% agree with you, I am not one for big government welfare programs and things like that. I can't be mad at these people, though, either. Because if I'm living in poverty, if my child who was born here, who is the 7th, 8th generation here, may need food, clothing, housing, medical assistance, but they can't get it, or they get it in limited quantities, while people who haven't been here and definitely aren't here legally can get all of that, I'd be feeling some kind of way too. I'd definitely be in my feelings, and I would definitely be looking at people sideways and asking, well, what about me and what about mine? Especially if I don't have a Christian worldview that starts out with a work ethic anyway.
Yeah. And this is what I hope Black people realize, because especially on this immigration thing, the Democratic Party has relied on the Black vote. We are now a smaller portion of the population. The more immigrants they bring in from South America, the more their voting allegiances are going to shift to those groups, right? It's bang for buck. And Black people are going to realize that they were only used for political power and political gain. And the minute there's a new favorite group, Black people are going to be on the outside looking in. And so, bringing in all of these illegal aliens is not an accident. It's something that is intentional. And they know they're bringing in a new voting base, because they're bringing them in with the goal of giving them citizenship and full rights. So these will be voters one day, and they're going to remember who gave them the clothing, who gave them the food, who gave them the shelter, and they're hoping that they're building future loyal voters, right? And so once that happens, they're not going to be catering every 4 years to the Black community. They're going to be catering to these new communities that they brought in. And it is a different type of, replacement theory.
Oh, that's a word. Now, I mean, two things on what you said. One, we're not against immigration, like legal immigration, like people coming into the country to work hard and to become legal citizens and to do all of that. Nobody's against that. But what we don't want to see is just this idea of come in to continuously receive handouts when we have our own massive homeless problem, when we have our own issues within our country that, we can't get a handle on. We have a drug crisis. We have a homelessness crisis. We have all kind of issues within our country. And, just allowing people to come in, we have an education crisis. It doesn't help these crises that we're already in. And this goes to the very next video that I want to show. It looks at, or actually it's not a video. It's a post from the New York Post, an article from the New York Post that looks at some of the issues with migrants coming in and how New York had a situation that completely left its kids out in the rain.
Yeah, before we dive into that, I do want to point out the fact that, yes, these immigrants are looking for handouts now, but we know immigrants come to this country looking for opportunity. I saw one video, this woman was talking about her children. She is here so that her children can get an education, and she said be doctors and lawyers. They are driven. So, and this is what's sad, within a generation, they're going to be surpassing the Black community because they're looking for handouts, but just as a jumping point. They're not looking for continuous aid, right?
Yes,
no, these
I agree with that.
people are coming here for opportunities. And within a generation or two, they are going to be, lifted up into the middle and upper class because they are here for the opportunities that we have that we sit and whine and complain about and cry racism over.
That's a special piece of wisdom and word right there. I guess my comment about the handout is that we do have our own crises, and how can we give a handout to someone else who has not come here legally when we need to be addressing things like the education crisis in our own country?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we have low literacy rates or low rates in math and thinking that we need to now, for the conversation of equity, be able to either change grading scales or offer different types of educational opportunities for certain groups, we need to be addressing the fact that certain students in our country, and especially within the Black community, are not up to grade level. Why is that? That's a crisis within our community.
So I think that's what we're getting at. Black people are starting to see that progressive policies pushed by the Democrats are having negative results for them, right? The lowering of standards within education, the defunding the police, or the not prosecuting crime, right? So putting criminals back on the street, which is causing more crime within these communities. And now they're seeing the progressive policies on immigration. And they're saying, wait a minute, none of this stuff is good for me. None of this stuff is good for us. The question is, where will they go? Will they vote differently?
Maven's immersive experiences are life-changing for students. And no, that is not an overstatement. I have seen it happen time and time again. Students go on these worldview and apologetic mission trips for a week, and they come back transformed. And that is why we are opening up the immersive experience to students across the United States in 2024 with our very first open enrollment trip. On July 14th through 20th, you can send your student to Salt Lake City, Utah, and they will be trained and equipped and led through a life-changing immersive experience. Go to maventruth.com and look for the immersive experience open enrollment trip information there.
Let's look at this New York Post article. Okay, so in this article from the New York Post, it says, New York City students forced to go remote as city houses nearly 2,000 migrants at their school, and one mom goes off. Does it feel good? Let's look at this clip.
How do you feel? How do you feel? Makes you feel good? I hope it makes you feel really good. does it feel that you kicked all the kids out of school tomorrow? How does it feel? Do you feel good? I hope you feel good. I hope you all sleep really well tonight.
Why are you yelling at them?
Because I have a right to. That's why. That's why. Because I'm an aggravated mother. That's why. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Taking over my kids' school. Take all the kids out to sleep here tonight, huh? How long staying?
Now, Kevin, this was a mom who was not Black, but I do think she echoes a lot of the sentiments of mothers in places like New York or Chicago.
Yeah. Man, I just want to say, I feel for the mom and also feel for the migrants, right? I mean, they're in a country they're not familiar with. They don't know where they're going to sleep. Not if they're sleeping in a school. This isn't ideal for them either, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, they came here on their own. Nobody made them come here. And so, yeah, it's just, I felt bad for both in that particular clip. But the mom, yeah, she's right to be upset because this is a problem that could have been resolved. We shouldn't be at this point, right? Yeah. The Biden administration intentionally allowed the Trump border policies to expire, right? And so instead of sending people back, they're basically allowing people in to stay, right? And once you do that, you only invite more people to come. You basically said, we are open, come on. And that's what they said a lot of migrants were waiting on. Once that policy expired, they just started coming. And so this is a policy issue, right? And it has consequences. And props to the governor of Texas and props to the governor of Florida and everybody else who are sending these immigrants to these so-called sanctuary cities that were virtue signaling and calling everybody racist who had an issue with this big problem that was going on because it wasn't affecting them. And now that it is affecting them, they're calling and telling, President Biden, he's got to do something. Mayor Adams in New York said this is going to kill our city. It's going to kill all our social systems and structures. And yeah, what do you think's been happening in Texas for decades, right? Mm. People near the southern border have been dealing with this for decades, asking the federal government to do something. And every time the state tries to do something, the Biden administration takes them to court and tries to sue them. The Obama administration did the same thing to Arizona when they tried to pass a law to protect the border because the border belonged to the federal government. And so it's like, so the state tries to do something, the federal government blocks it. Why are they blocking it? Why do they want all these people in? Mm-hmm. That is the question that needs to be asked. And that's what, parents are like, wait a minute, my kid can't go to school now because you've decided on this policy. This is a policy issue. You decided on this policy that you're going to allow all of these people in. And now we've got millions of people in this country that we now have to find a way to take care of. And now my kid's school is gone. The community center they went to after school for after school care is now gone. And at the same time, you have been telling us for years that there was no money to do anything. And now all of a sudden there's millions of dollars for this. And so, yeah, I get it.
Let's look at one last clip. And then we're going to talk about just what are the implications of this? What does this mean? Like, I personally, and I don't think you are, saying, hey, everyone needs to jump on the Trump boat or jump on the Republican boat, nor are we saying you need to jump on the Nikki Haley or the Cornel West or the, whoever that person is, that you need to jump on those boats. But what is the answer? So let's talk about some of that after this next clip.
Okay.
Are Black voters ditching the Democratic Party? While this group has historically supported Democrats, showing up for Joe Biden back in 2020 in a make or break contest in Georgia that put him in the Oval Office, for example, almost 4 years later, polls show that Black voters are checking out, particularly Black men. Now, that's all relative. Of course, the overwhelming majority of Black men still vote for Democrats, but a recent Reuters Ipsos poll found 18% of Black Americans would pick Donald Trump over Biden in a hypothetical matchup, compared to 46% who favored Biden, which could dramatically impact the outcome of an election in which every vote counts. However, it doesn't seem that Democratic Party leaders are taking these warnings especially seriously. Congressional Black Caucus PAC Chair Rep. Gregory Meeks said of the upcoming election, quote, "Let's be serious. Black folks know there are two choices in this election."
This just goes right to your point about Black men and the reality that Black men are not feeling Biden. And I don't even know that it's just Biden. I don't think Black men are feeling Newsom. I don't think they're feeling Democrats. So the question is well, what are they gonna feel? Like, what's gonna be the thing that really captures their attention, that draws them in and gets them to say, yes, I'm gonna put my foot here. I'm gonna make my mark on the ballot for this party.
Yeah. What's amazing is this isn't a new trend. So Trump in 2016 got a larger percentage than anybody ever thought he could. And despite the 4 years of craziness and everything that was going on, in 2020, he increased it, right? And now here we are in 2024, and it's like it's going to be even bigger. So this is a trend. It was like, why is this? What is going on within the Black community, and especially among Black men, that they are willing to break away from traditional voting patterns to vote for someone who is generally seen as controversial. And so I think what we're seeing is this idea of independent thought, or at least questioning what I've always been told I had to do, right? We talk about breaking away from the Democrat plantation. And I think it's some of that is going on. It's like, hello, you told me this guy was all bad, but I didn't think he was that bad, right? And it's just like, they're hearing the rhetoric and they're seeing reality, and they're realizing the two don't go together. And so now they're questioning the rhetoric for the first time, right? The Roland Martins of the world, the Al Sharptons of the world, just what they've been hearing, what they've been told, it just doesn't, at some point, it doesn't add up, right? Because they're not having honest discussions about real issues. And I also think the red pill community, believe it or not, has a lot to do with it, with discussing issues of men, right? What are the issues men have? And that red pill community is more of a masculine type community and rhetoric and understanding. And they're seeing the contrast to not only the Democratic Party, but the Black church that caters heavily to Black women.
Yeah.
Right. And they're saying that's not good for us. They want masculinity.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the word they see in Trump. Right or wrong, you can call it toxic masculinity if you want to, but there's a masculinity that they are like, yes, I relate to that. And no, Sleepy Joe don't even don't give you that same vibe.
No, it ain't the same. But do you think the Republican Party is the place where they're going to go, where Black men, since that's the lane that the clip was talking from, is that where they're going to go? And is that the most helpful position? Because I said it earlier, I kind of feel like regarding Republicans, while I think if you look at their policies and the platform and what they're about, any person who joins that mind process and that ideology of, working hard and waiting to have kids before you, until you're married and graduating school and, I think I already said working hard, but doing some of those things that are now seen as whiteness and racist, if anybody who does those, statistically, it's proven that they will have a different trajectory on life, that, your chances of living in poverty are significantly decreased if you graduate high school, if you wait to have kids before, if you wait to have kids,
get married,
and if you start working, that even include going to college.
Nope.
And so that's a lot. Those ideals are what a lot of the conservative values, are wrapped up with. But I don't know that the Republican Party has done any, or I don't want to say anything, but much of anything, I will say that, to actually go out and attract a Black vote. Whereas the Democratic Party, I feel like that's all they do is eat, sleep, and think about how do we get the Black vote.
Yes, because as of right now, the Democrats need the Black vote to win elections, and they need a big turnout from the Black vote. If they lose
the
it,
Republicans.
The Republicans don't. The Republicans know the Republicans they need white suburban moms to vote Republican.
But I think that the vote I think the Black vote going Republican or going Democrat will cause the ticket to win.
True. Yeah, because if the Republicans are pulling the Black vote from Democrats, then yes, Democrats can't win. But this is the problem with that. You heard what some of those people were saying. They were what is attracting them, or what are they upset about the Democratic Party? You were supposed to give us this. That's not. The Republicans can't win the Black vote by appealing to the way Black people view government, because that is completely counter to the Republican and conservative view of government, right? And so you can't go out and attract them if you're simply going to promise to give them everything like the Democrats do. You can't win that game. And so that's why it's hard to say, oh, Republicans, go appeal to the Black community, because the Black community's view of government is give me, give me, give me. Come save me.
But I don't know that Trump ran on that. And I think that...
And Trump didn't. But Trump is an anomaly that's appealing to Black men. He's not appealing to Black women. He's only appealing to a certain part of demographic of Black men, right? But just in general, if you feel like this, if the GOP tried to go into a Black church and recruit that church to vote Republican, you got to go in there and basically repeat, BLM slogans. You got to go in there and talk about, what y'all going to do about systemic racism. You got to lay out the whole gambit that their mind is wrapped around. And there's no way to do that without compromising.
But see, I don't know that that's true across the board. I think
you're going to move further to the left if you try to go and recruit the Black vote.
I don't know that that's true. I think that Black people are tired. And I honestly do believe that there are more Blacks today that would be willing to hear a different narrative. That, hey, I know you want this. I know you want your wealth and your income to be here. I know you want to take care of your kids here. This is a way to do that. We aren't going to take care of your kids. These are your kids. But this is a way to help you get down that road. I don't know that, at least today, after 4 years of Bidenomics, that Black people are really sitting back thinking, I now need to still wait on the government to give me something, because what they're seeing is that the government don't care about them. They're not going to give them nothing. So if the government's not going to give me nothing, what do I have to do to actually do something for myself? Black women are the most educated people in our country. There is something that Black women have caught on to in relation to education. I think that if it's presented properly, and it would take somebody bold from the GOP to actually say, you know what, I'm going to make a move to be able to help teach something different to this group of people, to help them rise up on their own, or with some safeguards. But that doesn't necessarily mean welfare. It could mean teaching a man to fish. Whereas the Democratic Party is like, I'm just going to fish for you and give you, the fish, no matter if it comes with sewage or if it's in a poisonous pond or not, here go your fish.
Yeah. So here's the game that is played. Like you say, Black women are the most educated sector of this country. So we're not even talking about poor people. So talking about giving them a leg up and with safeguards, they don't need it. They're not poor. What the Democratic Party does is take the plight of Black poor people and make other Black people feel like they have to vote this way to improve the conditions for those people. That's the game that is played. So unless you're coming in and saying what you're going to do when they say the black community, they're talking about the inner city poor black community.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. And so when they're talking about what you're going to do for the black community, that's what they're talking about. It is more welfare, social programs, things like that. They view government as the solution. They don't want to hear nothing about family formation. They don't want to hear nothing about we need more fathers in the homes. They don't want to hear that.
But think about it, even if it's in small numbers, think about Alton Hardy. He is going in with that message. You need more fathers in the home. You need to be married. You need to, actually raise your kids right. You need to be thinking about your wealth and how to provide for your family. Or think about Christian families against destructive decisions. That the CFAD conference that Delano Squires and I went to last year, this is a growing conversation in the community. I just don't think that it's a political conversation yet. And this is where I think the Republican Party or an independent party, someone else, it doesn't need to be a GOP, it can be anyone who is going to come in with more of this conversation that we're seeing in pockets spurred on by the church. But I think to get people away from the Democratic Party, if that is really what's going to happen, that conversation needs to be had on more of a political sphere as well. To say, hey, look, when you vote this way, these are other opportunities that become available to you, not necessarily things that we do for you.
Yeah. The issue is you have to have those conversations in black circles, right? Mm-hmm. So they can have those conversations all day on Fox News all they want. Black people aren't watching that. But you're not going to have it on MSNBC and you're not going to have it on CNN. You're also not going to get in black churches. Also not going to get in HBCUs, right? So, what Delano Squires talks about the
I don't know about that because Alton's in an HBCU.
Yeah, but he's also not. I'm talking about from a political point, from a GOP perspective. Yeah, cool. He's a local, on the ground, in the community guy. But from a GOP perspective, you're not going to get in those institutions because they're safeguarded. They're the gatekeepers, right? Yeah. The gatekeepers are the black intellectual class, the pundits, the preachers, the politicians, I forgot all the other two P's, but that elite class that controls the messaging that goes to the black community, the Joy Reids of the world, the Cornel West of the world.
I was just about to bring up Cornel West because and I'm not actually sure if he's still running it on the ticket. I don't actually think so. But he came out with his little weird commercial. I wonder if there was ever any thought from black people that he could be a viable candidate because he's an intellectual. If the Democratic
National Convention would have allowed actual debates and other candidates to have an actual real primary, he maybe could. If he had gotten on the stage and been in debates and stuff, but they said they intentionally did not have a single debate. So how do you get traction when you can't even get on the stage? There's no stage to get on. They've already deemed Joe Biden is the candidate, right? And so, no, I mean, I could have seen it kind of like a Bernie Sanders out of nowhere kind of gain support. Yeah, I could see Cornel West saying some things that got a lot of people in his corner, but he wasn't given an opportunity, and neither was anyone else. So,
yeah. So when we hear something like, well, blacks know that there's only, it's always going to be a two-ticket party, a two-choice party. I'm wondering if the last 4 years are enough to push that vote. I think for men, they're coming around more. For women, it doesn't look like it, and I'm not sure what holds them to the party. I mean, aside from
the church, those preachers. That's what I'm talking about. You control the people that influence the people. And the Democratic Party has control on the influencers that influence the black community.
But see, I don't know about that either, because when we look at the amount of Black women who are leaving the church in droves, especially from millennials on down, I mean, now we're only talking about your Gen X's and your boomers.
Yeah, but where are they? They're leaving the church because they're getting indoctrinated in college, in universities, and they're progressives. They're still being influenced by the same people the Democratic Party control. They're coming out with these worldviews. You know, they're LGBTQ affirming and all of these things, and pro-abortion or pro-choice or pro-abortion. They're not coming out with values of, oh, let me be conservative or Christian or right-wing, or let me think about economics this way and rights. And no, it's all activism.
Yeah.
Right.
So what the college or the university doesn't catch, what sifts through them, is caught in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they go home and they watch Joy Reid on MSNBC. They watch The View. They watch all of these things that simply reinforce the same messaging.
So what do you say, though, to the Black Christian who was like, well, I mean, both sides are basically just demonic. You know, conservatives really don't uphold conservative values. Conservatives ain't nowhere but where Democrats were 10 to 15 years ago. And the Democratic Party is the devil too. And so, you know, it doesn't really matter who you vote for because both sides are evil.
As a Christian, I say there's no Christian political party, right? There's no one say, okay, this aligns perfectly with my Christian values and principles, especially when you're talking about a character like Trump. But I even posted on social media recently that I'm done trying to pretend that these are two equal bad sides. There is one side from a Christian standpoint that is way worse than the other, right? If you're going to give me MAGA policies, or you're going to give me woke, progressive, DEI, LGBTQ plus, gender transition in schools and rainbows and all that kind of stuff, I can't pretend these are two equally bad policies, right?
Yeah.
Even if I say the GOP doesn't perfectly align with Christian values,
yeah,
one side has gone too far, right, and strayed so far away. And only one side is, you know, claims or makes threats against the church, right? You know, suing the church or taking away, you know, tax exempt status, that you don't affirm this. And only one side was really trying to lock everybody down during COVID, being very authoritarian. You know, you live in LA. We know what San Francisco is like. This is what we're talking about. Like, their ideology and the policies they push forward. Oregon, far left. What are they doing? You know, getting rid of grading standards, standardized testing because of equity issues, because Black people aren't doing well enough on it, so therefore it's racist. You've got others, I think in Chicago, talking about getting rid of magnet schools because it creates inequities. So Black people who get a chance to get accepted into magnet schools to do better, have better opportunities, and now it's like, nah, you're gonna stay in that school over there that's failing and you're gonna like it. Like, why would we vote for that? It's like the what's her name in Georgia, the state representative. She switched from Democrat to Republican over this issue of school choice because they just want you to stay in the failing school system. Yeah, these are not equally bad and flawed groups, right? Even if you want to say, oh, well, the GOP is racist. I'm talking policy, man. What are the policies?
What do you do then with something like the evangelicals for Biden? Because now you just made a claim. No, we here today. I got time. Okay. what do you do with the evangelicals for Biden? You had the AND campaign with Justin Giboney and, some other like high profile people who are like, yes, I'm an evangelical, but I'm an evangelical for Biden, which, I mean, is the evangelical, if you're for Biden and you're for Biden and all of his policies, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's like everything I just ran off. We're talking about policies. We're not talking about how well you like the person. We're talking about what are the policies. If you are an evangelical, don't tell me you are, not just pro-choice, they are pro-abortion. For, you look at the progressive and the Democrat states that have passed abortion laws, they are almost free with no exemptions. Abortions for any reasons, up to any point, all right? You talk about, LGBTQ stuff. We're talking about, two men adopting babies and surrogacy, and we're talking about, the LGBTQ indoctrination in our schools. We're talking about pornographic books in our schools. We're talking about, quote unquote, gender affirming care, which is child sex changes. They're pushing this stuff, and it's coming from the White House, right? Dylan Mulvaney invited to the White House. Look at Biden's appointments. I forgot the health secretary name, the dude that wears the military. Yes. Yeah. Like, they're intentionally promoting and putting these people in positions based on equity. And too many quote unquote supposedly evangelicals and Christians have bought into this demonic Marxist worldview about equity and inclusion, right? And they've been manipulated by it, and they're think that justifies voting for Biden because he's talking about equity and he's gonna, put more women in places. And like, the Lord didn't. That's not a biblical mandate or value, or it's not something taught within Scripture,
So for you with the evangelical, I would say the evangelicals for Biden are kind of a chew the meat, spit out the bones kind of organization. Like, they would clearly say that they are not for the trans movement. They are not for abortion, but they are for helping the poor. And so,
go help the poor.
This is the meal that's before me. I really like this steak. I really like helping the poor. Now, I'm not one for ham hocks and greens and pig feet, but that does sound actually pretty good. But I need this steak, so I'm gonna have to sit with the whole plate. But it doesn't. I mean, does that make sense?
It does make sense, but this is where they're wrong. Jesus didn't say, "Hey, go tell Caesar to feed the poor." He said, "You go do it." It's you. It's not about voting for a policy for the government to do it. He said, "You go do it. You go take care of your neighbor. You go do it." That's what they're missing. They have put their responsibilities on the government. And they think they are virtuous and righteous because they voted for the government to take money from somebody else and give it to the poor. And they're not giving a dime. They ain't doing nothing themselves. They just want to sit and vote for somebody else to pay for it and do it. It's a cop-out.
Yeah. Now, I do want to offer some clarity and say that there are things that, nobody's going to agree 100% with any person that they put in office, that they vote for. Like, I can't vote for Trump or Nikki Haley or Cornel West and be like, oh yeah, I agree with them 100% on everything across the board. But I do think that as believers, we have to look for the good, true, and the beautiful, and things that align with the plumb line of Scripture, and say, who has the largest bucket of things that align with our Christian values?
Yes. And there's only one political party out of the two that
only a two-party system.
Yeah,
right now.
But there's only one that says, "Hey, Christians, go do good things. Hey, Christians, we believe in the same value system that you do in terms of, sexual ethics, marriage. You want to build more churches, go ahead. Like, the more the better. Like, it's only one that is embracing that and saying, yeah, come on in, do your thing. The other side is saying you are oppressive. Christianity is an oppressive religion. We need to uplift other religions. You know, marriage is patriarchy and misogynistic, or marriage is just whatever you want it to be. You know, now they talk about, you know, polygamy, you know, and all this kind of stuff. They're talking about, you know,
polyamory.
Don't even get me on the basically treating children as adults, right? If the child can choose their gender, then they can also choose, and then you're also feeding them and talking about sexuality and all this kind of stuff. They, at some point, you're going to make the leap that they can also choose consent within sexual relationships. We're heading down that road.
People are already talking about that. Yes.
So this is what I'm talking about. That's what the other side is pushing.
Yeah.
At some point in time, we got to say, the orange dude is get on my nerves. He's a jerk. He's narcissistic. But oh my goodness, that is satanic. That is satanic. Trump being a jerk is not, I'm not going to say that's satanic. It's just annoying. And like I say, he's not my candidate. I've never voted for him, just being full disclosure. But at the same time, that over there is demonic. It just is, you know, what they're pushing, and it's the ideology that's behind it. That's what people don't understand. They don't understand worldview, and they don't understand political philosophy, right? Yeah, they don't understand what is the role of government.
Yes. I think what I hope is that people are waking up to the reality that their vote actually matters, and that actions have consequences. And when we vote, we have an action to vote in someone who, you know, has policies that go against human flourishing. We all suffer. These are the consequences. $7.35 gas in Hollywood is the consequence of the policies from the people that we vote in.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, it's been a good discussion. I've enjoyed this. I think.
I'm sorry. I want to apologize for going off. You know,
it's okay. It is okay. Hey, remember when we were at camp and and somebody said something and I leaned in to say something? Before I knew it, you had put your arm back and pushed me all the way to the back.
I had to say something.
You had something to say. Yes.
Yeah. Like I said, but
go ahead.
No, I'm saying, like, I'm not trying to push people to the GOP. That's not. I'm just saying, evaluate what it is you are blindly voting for based on the fact that you're Black.
Yes.
And you've been told your whole life, this is the way you must vote. And that's a whole nother episode about Black identity being tied to a political party, or Black identity being tied to a political philosophy.
Yes. And what I'm looking forward to in the coming months as we move closer to the election is having more of these conversations with guests who are involved in law and judges and people who, you know, understand this lane and can help us even think through it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 2024. It's an election year. So we've got to talk about these things. I'm just praying and hoping that people will have fruitful discussions, and I just don't want the crazy that we had in 2020. That's all.
You know, I do think the crazy's coming. That's unfortunate, but I think the crazy's coming. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging with us for this last hour on Off Code. We appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode. Kevin, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
We will. Talk to you later.